What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's video. So today I wanted to give do a little rant and review on the most recent episode of Game of Thrones. That is Game of Thrones season 8 episode 3. I don't know if I'll be reviewing the last few episodes of Game of Thrones as part of the channel. It's not something that I've done in the past. With my channel being relatively new and having not reviewed the episodes prior to this, probably something that may or may not happen. I guess it depends on the events of each episode. But I really wanted to talk about it this recent episode just because there's a lot of things to talk about, and I guess I got a lot of things I want to get off my chest about this episode in particular. So with that said, if you haven't watched the episode, full spoilers ahead. We're going to talk about pretty much the entirety of the episode, which is the Battle of Winterfell. So, okay, let's start. So, this episode is obviously the culmination of the last couple seasons, especially in the show. This is the battle against the Night King, against the White Walkers, against the Whites, against everything that we've been talking about the last couple seasons, and really something that was introduced at the very opening scenes of the show. This is it, right? There's a lot riding on this battle, and I will say that. So to start off with the positives of this episode, and really what I loved about it is the director Miguel Sapochnik is absolutely incredible at putting together his episodes. He's obviously the one that did Hard Home, which was easily one of the best episodes in the show entirely. It's a better zombie movie episode than like any episode of Walking Dead, than like any zombie movie ever. It was just so well done. They touted this as the biggest battle ever to be recorded on film, and it absolutely lives up to that. Again, everybody's got the Ken Jeong meme, like, oh, I can't actually see what's going on, because they do this like this dimming, this darkening effect, which here's me trying to adjust my computer screen, so that was obviously a problem. But I didn't think it was, it's something that's been happening on the show lately anyway, so it wasn't anything new that we haven't been experiencing. Obviously, for a big battle spectacle, you kind of miss out on a lot of it, but I think it makes a lot of the scenes more intense. The scenes that are supposed to be dark, like the zombie horror scene with Arya, which we'll talk about in a sec, made it that much more intense. So that was great. I found myself holding my breath in this episode so often, or like my mouth was so dry just from the anticipation and the anxiety of what's going to happen. Who's actually going to bite the dust, in the next few minutes, or there's so many scenes where everybody's getting smothered by whites. There's just no way that so and so is going to make it out, or if they do, it's some miraculous victory. And it's incredible, it's something the show's always been good at, and it continues to be good at. Most of the scenes where Arya were great. I love the little zombie horror sneaking around that little room. It was great. The pacing of these battles can be painful at times. 40, 50 minutes, 60 minutes of just bodies piling onto bodies, as enemies run into each other and they're crashing into each other, and horses running in and bodies running in and shields getting hit and all kinds of stuff. So it was nice to kind of slow the pace down, made it really intense. Arya's stuck in this room where she's trying to sneak out of, and that was a great scene, great pacing and all that. One of the big deaths in this episode is obviously Jorah. Jorah probably died in the way that Jorah would have liked to die if he was ever going to die in this show. Defending Dany from, the worst possible fate. This is a situation where she needed someone to protect her. She needed someone to fight for her, and Jorah was the man to be there to do that. In a lot of cases, it could have been Jon, it could have been the Dothraki, it could have been anybody, but in this case, it was absolutely Jorah. And Jorah died in a manner that made sense for Jorah. And then, the finale of the episode, seeing Arya be the one to kill the Night King. While I was definitely on the team that wanted the Night King, to win it all, to destroy mankind, because I think that would have been the most impactful ending for the show. I was pretty certain they wouldn't do it, but if they did, I think that would have been the one that I chose. But to see the Arya be the one to do it was definitely satisfying. The dagger that she used obviously has history in the show. Being Valyrian steel from Littlefinger. The one that was used to murder Bran and Littlefinger, and then Bran giving it back to her previously, and all that. Like, it was great. It was great storytelling with that dagger and with Arya being the one to take out the Night King. And that's all great. I mean, the Night King is so badass. Like, just fighting, just resurrecting bodies, and like, he's got something to do. He hasn't got time for you, Jon Snow. Fight these bodies instead. I will say that as much as I did like the episode, it's a little disappointing for me, just because this was the battle, right? This is what we've been building up for. Like, Jon spent the last 2.5 seasons, something like that, preparing for the Night King. Hardhome was season 5, maybe season 6, whatever it was. Like, they've been fighting the Night King for so long. And while the battle itself, again, was absolutely incredible, I just feel like everything just ended too easily. There was no main character deaths. The biggest being Jorah. Jorah's always been relevant, but not important or not vital. He's definitely not one of the main characters. So to see that none of the main characters died in this scene, not that I necessarily want them to die, but it gives it the sense of, we accomplished something. We had to lose something great to defeat, the biggest enemy in the history of this world, right? And I just find that, on the one hand, unrealistic, but on the other hand, like, everybody made it out. There were literally times where characters were covered in bodies, like Sam and Jaime and Brienne are just covered in whites that are trying to attack them, and they all made it out, no problem. I think there's a scene also as Jon, before Arya gets to the Night King and before Jon actually squares off against that dragon towards the end, where he sees Sam like actually getting covered and just passes by him because he's got to get to Bran and the Kingswood, and Sam makes it out fine. I think that it was too easy, right? Just too safe for the showrunners. This is one of those moments where they could have had huge impact by just killing any of the major characters. Like, I'm also on the team that thinks that Jon needs to die at some point in this show, just because his resurrection has had no consequence in the show, which I know that I think that should be an important part of his character. Like, he has something that he needs to give up for being resurrected, and I thought this would be a great time. Maybe he's the one to kill the Night King, or maybe he doesn't, but he could have died in the process of allowing Arya to kill the Night King, or something like that. Like, again, I have no problem with Arya being the one to kill the Night King, but even her, just Assassin's Creeding out of the sky and stabbing the Night King, or getting caught by the Night King and then stabbing him, was, while it was totally badass, was kind of out of nowhere. Like, how did she manage to get through this guard? Like, there's only one entrance, as far as I know, into the Kingswood, so she makes it into the Kingswood, there's an army of a group of White Walkers and whites that came in with the Night King, and she just manages to Assassin's Creed her way off the top of like a building into the Kingswood or something like that. I don't know. I didn't like it. I felt it was a bit too rushed. Again, like, how it ended was fine. I'm fine with her like flying out of nowhere and stabbing him, but at least like they could have had like, maybe Jon cut his way through there and take down people, and then maybe the Night King sacrifice. Maybe Jon doesn't need to die this episode, but I don't know, like, Jon could have died and it could have been like, he gave his life for the Night King and something. And then like, similar to the scene in the crypts, right? Everybody, all these whites break into the crypt, and people are getting eaten all over the crypt, and Sansa and Tyrion have this, like, what could have been a poignant moment where they looked like they were about to, double suicide themselves, which I thought would be, I thought it would have been a pretty powerful moment had they done that, but they don't. I don't know. That's what it seemed like. They pull out the knives, like, oh, this is it for us, and instead they try to defend everybody. I don't know. Like, I find it unrealistic that these whites are pouring into the crypt. Now that they busted a hole in the wall, and Sansa and Tyrion with a couple knives are able to stop them. I don't know. It seems unrealistic and kind of pointless in the whole. Like, what was the point of it? Yeah, I don't know. I thought that the entire crypt scene was kind of pointless as well. There's literally, enemies raining down from the sky. The dragon's flying. I assume it's Drogon flying through, and he's shaking enemy bodies off of them, and they're falling into Winterfell. And then the Night King raises them back from the dead, and everybody manages to make it out, which I found quite disappointing. I mean, I thought the battle itself was great, but just I thought that this was unwinnable from that sense, or at least unwinnable without some major casualties. So I guess that's the major problems I had with the episode. Some little things are just, what was Bran doing this entire time? Like, he warged into ravens to find the Night King midway through, but then what was he he was warging until the Night King showed up. So what was he doing in the in that moments where the Night King's walking into the Kingswood? Like, he doesn't need to be warged into a raven to know that the Night King is standing outside of his door. And I mean, what's the point? I had a friend suggest that maybe he was showing Arya the way, but I mean, Arya knows where Bran is, so even if she just wanted to start with Bran and work her way out, like, she doesn't need ravens to guide her. So my final issue, now they finished the largest battle in history of the world, probably, and the next episode makes it sound like they're about to launch an offensive against King's Landing. Like, how do they have enough people to launch an offensive against anything? I could understand it the other way, like, Cersei sees, they just fought these things, we have word that they succeeded, that they won, okay, now let's invade Winterfell to destroy what's left of them. But how do, after this entire battle, like, literally, it must be like thousands, tens of thousands, maybe millions of whites and White Walkers and all that come pouring into Winterfell, everybody's getting eaten and torn apart and stabbed and everything, and they still have enough people to launch an offensive against King's Landing? Like, I really hope that that's not what's about to happen. Like, it's an episode or an episode and a half, and then, we have enough people, let's just go attack King's Landing now and reclaim the throne that we want. Like, that's even more unrealistic, because so then what did we really lose from this battle? We lost literally nothing, because we still have enough manpower to say, okay, we just fought this one major battle, the biggest battle of all time. Now let's go fight what could be the next biggest battle of all time. So I don't know. Like, again, I do think the episode is great. I did enjoy it. Like I said, it had me at the edge of my seat at times. It was very tense. The music score that plays during the final sequence is incredible. Like, it's perfect. Arya killing the Night King makes absolute sense. She deserves to. It's, definitely a big closure to her story arc. And of course, the absolute best part of the episode, we finally got to see Ghost again. After, they said they can't render Ghost at the same time as rendering dragons or whatever. Even though he, runs into battle with the Dothraki, and then they all die, and then we don't see Ghost for the rest of the episode. So that was kind of a waste as well. At least he could have, saved Jon's life or something at some point, like he has done in the past. So I don't know. That's just me ranting about the episode. I don't want to keep rambling too much longer. But again, it's still worth the watch. It's kind of tense. I don't know if I'd necessarily watch it again to kind of see what I missed out of it. But it's great to see that at least the battle's over, and we can move on to the final battle, I guess, with Winterfell and Daenerys and Jon fighting against Cersei and the Lannister army and the armies of the South. So hope you enjoyed me rambling and kind of complaining about what I didn't like about this otherwise pretty good episode, or otherwise great episode, because it honestly was great. But thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.